Stand ahead now. Yeah, look at the link. You know? That's it. Yeah. पण मग प्रश्न येणार ना. मग प्रश्न ते असं जावं लागेल का. पण मग हे याला ते पण प्रश्न कसे वाचणार मी. ओके, ऑलराइट. वी आर बिल्डिंग अन ऑडियन्स फॉर यू. ठीक आहे, मग असंच धरावं लागेल.
दोनच्या मध्ये असं जर का ठेवलं. अजून काहीतरी जोड आण.
अभिजित, गुड इव्हनिंग. Good evening. So shall I start talking? My apologies for being delayed. No, I'm doing this Q&A. I want to welcome you to this third live chat on Facebook. This time we are going to focus on a specific subject, and that subject is going to be on GST. The goods and services taxes. And this was a suggestion made by one of our friends, Abhijit Ingle, who made a suggestion that there should be a separate live Facebook chat dedicated to the subject of GST. And that is why hurriedly, while I'm in transit, I'm in Pune right now, we are doing it. So please shoot your questions. On GST, this time I'm going to focus only on GST because that is a very, very important development that has taken place. So please shoot your questions. Let me give you a brief about what is this GST. First thing that you need to know is that GST is the most important reform that has taken place in the last 25 years. Last time in 1991, when there was an unprecedented macroeconomic crisis in our country, at that time Dr. Manmohan Singh had started the so-called new economic policy of liberalization, privatization, globalization. After that, from 1991 to 2016, this is singularly the most important economic reform that has taken place in our country. This reform does not mean this reform does not mean that the GST is going to happen. It only paves the way for GST bill to happen. A lot of people think that this is the GST bill itself. No, this is not a GST bill, but this would enable the government to put forward the GST bill. My friend Sandeep Telmore has asked why BJP was opposed to these tax reforms when they were not in power. Good question. You know, this proposal has come a long way. You know, originally it started in 2006 when there was Congress government, and the finance minister was Mr. Chidambaram was the finance minister. He made a proposal, and that proposal was not acceptable. After a lot of debate, it never came up. In 2011, there was a kind of bill that was prepared, but that could not get through. BJP was opposed to that, but please understand here that it is very true that initially Congress was pushing for it and BJP was opposing. Now, in the last 2.5 years, BJP has been pushing for it and Congress has been opposing it. This is true. However, we are talking about things which are not comparable. The bill that was brought out earlier was completely different from the bill that has been brought out now and approved by the parliament now, by Rajya Sabha now. So there is a big difference. There were many areas of disagreement, and all those were sorted out, and finally the amendment, the constitutional amendment 122, has been approved by Rajya Sabha, and now it will go further. Now 50% of the states, that is 16 states in our country, would have to ratify that, and after that the government, the Honorable President will give assent after 50% of the states approve that. So after that, the formal GST bill will come, the central GST and integrated GST will come. That will happen later. Our friend Anand Wakde has asked, the service tax is 14% and KKC plus SBC is 1%, equal to 15%. But GST is going to be 18%. So tax is going to go so high. Please understand here, most people do not seem to fully comprehend what does that GST mean. Let me first explain to you what does GST mean. You know, there are two kinds of taxes in our country. One is direct taxes and other one is indirect taxes. The example of direct taxes is income tax or corporation tax. Direct taxes are progressive. Progressive in the sense that higher is your income, more tax you will pay. So that applies to income tax, that applies to corporate taxes and so on. Then there is another set of taxes called indirect taxes. Indirect taxes are supposed to be regressive taxes because irrespective of your level of income, the same rate applies. You know, for example, if you are consuming petrol, whether you are driving a Ferrari or whether you are a rickshaw driver, you will have to pay for the petrol the same price and same tax would be applicable. So that is indirect tax. Now, in our country, today, the indirect taxes collected is more than the direct taxes. But what has happened over a period of time is that we have added innumerable taxes. We have created a jungle of taxes. For example, the central government has the taxes like excise duty and service tax. And then state governments have their own taxes like sales tax, value-added tax, entertainment tax, and then there are all the entry taxes like octroi. You know, when you go to any new city, when you are moving from one state to another state, if goods are being transferred, there are taxes. And what happens is that everywhere we have created such a jungle of taxation that there is a tax on tax and there is a lot of cascading effect. For example, something produced in Maharashtra, when it goes to Gujarat, it pays a tax. From Gujarat, if it goes to Madhya Pradesh, it will be taxed again. So there is a tax on tax. What GST does is that it brings down, you know, it combines all the indirect taxes, all taxes, indirect taxes. All indirect taxes are combined and consolidated into one tax called goods and services tax. Now let's talk about the level. Now it has many advantages. Let me explain the advantages of having a combined goods and services tax. You know, instead of so many taxes, we have one single tax. There are 6 advantages that can follow from this. 6 different distinct advantages. First of all is that this will simplify, because the maze of taxes that we have would be combined, consolidated into one uniform tax. So that would improve the tax compliance. So there would be simplicity, there would be simplification and unification of all indirect taxes into one tax. Now this is very, very good. Second thing, it will eliminate the fragmentation, geographical fragmentation, thereby creating one common market for the entire country. For example, in India, although we are one country, we do not have one market. There are pockets, there are markets in different states which are fragmented. And there is no uniformity, and there are all kinds of taxes for transfers between one market to another. This has created lot of problems and it has added to the cost. So what is being done is, the second benefit of GST would be that it will eliminate all the geographical fragmentation between markets and the entire country would become one market, and this will be very, very important. Third advantage is that this will be completely digital. This would be complete, there would be complete transparency, and you will be surprised. You will be surprised that there would be a very great probability of detection of tax evasion. So what will happen? Something which misses the net of the state taxes will be captured by the center. Something which misses the central thing will be captured by the states. So it is going to be, there is a self-policing kind of provision involved here, and that would help bring the black economy down, and which would be very, very important. It will arrest the corruption, and all the rent-seeking behavior of the indirect tax machinery will be almost eliminated. Fourth advantage is that there would be a lot of push given to the overall growth rate of our country. It would, in fact, the experts have predicted that it can add up to 2 percentage points to our GDP growth. Our GDP growth, India today is one of the fastest growing country, the fastest growing country in the world, and we are growing at the rate of 7.5%. With GST fully becoming operational, the growth rate can be increased to 9 to 9.5%, which would be remarkable. And why would it happen? It would happen because of two things. One is the productivity gains from the simplified and transparent tax regime. And second, there would be greater degree of price competitiveness. The fifth advantage would be it would facilitate the fiscal consolidation. It will, because the black economy would be contained, what would happen is that the tax base would be widened. When the tax base is widened, that will give more revenue to the government, and with the more revenue to the government, it would release the resources for social sectors like education, like health, like just social justice for scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and minorities, and so on. Finally, it will have a positive effect on inflation. It will reduce the inflation over a period of time. To begin with, there may be some upward push to the inflation, but over a period of time, after say 1 year, it will bring the inflation rate down. Now I will turn to the question that you have. The question that was asked was, would the tax rate not go up? Look at it this way. This is a combined tax on goods and services, right? Now, average tax rate for goods is about 27%. Average tax rate for services tax rate is about 15%. So the standard rate that will come out of GST is going to be between 15 to 27%. They are possibly talking about 18% as a standard rate. If 18% is a standard rate, what will happen is that for services, we will have to pay more, but for goods, we'll have to pay much less than what is currently being taxed. From 27 plus, it will come down to 18%, whereas from services, where we are paying 15%, the consumers would be paying a little bit more. Assuming that 18%, it has not been agreed that the standard rate would be 18%. What they are trying to do is to have three rates to begin with. One would be the standard rate, which is likely to be between 18 and 19%. And then there would be a below 18% rate, the subnormal rate, and that rate would apply to merit goods like food items and so on. And there would be a third rate which would be above the standard rate, above the normal rate, and that would apply to what is called sin goods. It would apply to cigarettes, it would apply to fancy cars and so on. So the sin goods, so-called demerit goods or sin goods, will be charged much higher rate. This will be the beginning, but over a period of time, all these three rates will be collapsed, would be combined into one uniform rate, and that would go very well with our country. Madhusudan Nag has asked a question, would GST apply to union territory or only on state? No, it would apply to entire country, including the center, states, and the union territories. There is a question by Anis Bauddha has asked question, how is GST going to be useful for SC, ST, and OBC and poor community? It would be very useful to the underprivileged strata of society in the following way. One is that the tax rate would be coming down. tax rate would be coming down over a period of time. As I said, on goods we are paying on an average 27% tax. That is going to come down to 18% or 19% and thereabout. So there would be a tax benefit. There would also be a benefit in terms of acceleration of growth. When the growth accelerates and the government revenue increases, it will release the resources for the government to be used for the benefit of scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, OBC, and generally the poor and vulnerable strata of society. Praful Rokde has asked, sir, did this really good for Indian economy? I just read your book yesterday, Amsa Baap and Ami. Amsa Baap and Ami is not the subject for today, but I'm glad to know that. This is going to be really good for the Indian economy. Let me clarify. There would be some gainers and some losers to begin with, but over a period of time, it will be uniformly good for the country. I am warning you that in the beginning, there would be some increase in inflation, particularly on services sector. Services that you are using would have to be paid more to begin with, but over a period of time, say after 1 year, it will bring the inflation rate down and it will promote the economic growth of this country. Anand Vakode says, thank you for clarifying. Nilesh Wag says, does government have adequate funds to bear the loss if citizens are going to gain from it? Or there is no loss and gain, but it is internal restructuring and the overall effect is neutral from the citizen's perspective. Very good question, Nilesh. Basically, they have worked out, they are in the process of working out all the combinations. They have tried to find out what would be a rate at which the revenue would be same as the revenue today. And what you call internal restructuring will take place. That rate turns out to be, it has been estimated to be about 15 to 15.5%. So we are now talking about 18% rate. 18% rate or thereabout as the standard rate. So what will happen is that the revenue would be more, but it is possible because GST is a destination-based tax. It is possible that some states, some manufacturing states like Maharashtra and Gujarat may suffer to begin with. So there is a specific provision made in the framework that whichever states which are subject to losses of revenue for next 5 years, the entire revenue would be compensated by the central government. So if Maharashtra government loses, let me give you an example. Bombay Municipal Corporation, Greater Mumbai Municipal Corporation, Bruhan Mumbai Municipal Corporation, it has a very large revenue from octroi. We all know about that. 7,000 crores or thereabout. This much money the BMC collects from their octroi revenue. Now octroi would be gone. Now with octroi gone, what will happen? There was a question asked in the parliament, are the Maharashtrian, do you expect the Maharashtra state to go with the begging ball, BMC with the begging ball to the government? No. Now there is an interesting situation here that whatever is the loss on account of octroi going, the loss will be borne by the central government for next 5 years, but they would pay that money to the state government. Now, if state government, because they have different ruling coalition, if they don't give money to BMC, what happens? These are the issues which would have to be sorted out. But it's clearly wherever there is a loss of states, those states would be compensated for next 5 years. And that is a very, very interesting provision. Raj Damle has asked, in your opinion, what should be the right sweet spot for GST rate? I think 18% would be the sweet spot GST rate, but there can be a difference of opinion there. I'm sorry, there was a disruption. Rahul Batsar has said, thanks a lot for the information. Sweet rate. Praful Rokde has said, sir, GST can it help India to provide better service to poor like education and services? Yes, it certainly will, because while in the beginning service tax is going to go up, it is going to add so much to the revenues of the central government that while distribution of GST revenue will be divided between the center as well as states. So both central government as well as state governments will hopefully get a lot more resources, and those resources can be utilized for promoting the education services either by state government or also by the state government. Rahul Aswale is asking question, sir, what would be its effect on IT sector? IT sector to begin with is going to have a negative adverse effect, but that would be only for a short while. Please understand that this entire thing is digitized. There are many challenges. First, let me explain that, passing this amendment does not mean that the act is passed. There are many things are going to happen. What are the things going to happen from now until in the next few months? Government has declared their intention that GST would be operationalized from 1st April 2017. Frankly speaking, it's a very big challenge to get it rolling from 1st April 2017. It may require more time, unfortunately. But what are the challenges involved? What is the process involved? See, today, in the 3 days back, the Rajya Sabha has approved the 122nd amendment to the Indian Constitution that would enable the GST to come into being. Now, 50% of Indian states, that means at least 16 states, would have to ratify that constitutional amendment. Then only that constitutional amendment is said to have gone through, and then it will be, if that happens in next 1 month, then that would be forwarded to the Honorable President of India for his assent. Once he gives the assent, then the real work will start. First of all, the government will have to create what is called GST Council, Goods and Services Tax Council. Council is the one which is going to take major decisions. This council will not comprise of only government people. It will contain people from finance minister will be there. All political parties would be represented there, and 2/3 of the votes in the council would be given to states, and 1/3 votes would be given to the center. The center can veto the states, and states can veto the center, and no decision can take place without 75% majority of votes within the GST Council. Now, this GST Council would have to be formed. What will the GST Council do? Two things GST Council will do. First of all, GST Council will decide what is the standard rate. Now, what their inclination, right now the inclination is, instead of having a one rate, there would be 3 rates, one standard rate, one below standard rate or below normal rate, and one demerit goods. For that, it would be a high side rate. And then it will be collapsed into one. So one first decision they have to make is what is that level of standard rate, one. Second, what are the things to be excluded from the purview of GST? Today, they have already decided 2 important items have been excluded from GST. One is alcohol and the second one is petroleum. States wanted alcohol to be excluded and central government wanted the petroleum product to be excluded. This is actually a setback because the GST is not full GST until these things are also taken over. But in any case, the GST Council will decide how soon the other items are also to be brought in. No GST Act can be perfect, but if we wait for a perfect GST to happen right away, it would take 10 years, 20 years for consensus to reach. So what is the effort now is let's get together as good as possible GST Act, and then go on improving. In that process, these 2 major items have been currently excluded from GST, and the GST Council to be established, they will take a view when these items can come in. GST Council would also have to take a decision about the exemption limits and so many other important things. The GST Council has to become functional. After GST Council is doing its job, they will have to draft 2 different bills. One would be Central GST Bill, And the second one would be integrated GST. Integrated GST is integrated for center and states, and central GST would be the central law. It would have to, both of these would have to be approved by Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and both of these also would have to be approved by 50% of the states. So when that happens, then those laws will come into force, and before they come into force, the government will have to create the entire machinery, the entire ecosystem for the collection of indirect taxes. What is happening today is that the current bureaucracy, the indirect tax bureaucracy, would have to be dismantled, new people would have to be taken, new digital system would have to be created, and people would have to be trained. So that is also going to take a lot of time. So that is why I'm saying that while it is possible to achieve the target of 1st April 2017, it would be naive to believe that we can easily do that. Nothing is insurmountable, but it is not easy task. It is an uphill battle, uphill task. The real work has really started now. There is a question from Santosh Karmarkar. He says that states like Maharashtra has been contributing more than other states. Now Maharashtra needs more developed infrastructure. Now how the funding will be done by the country? This is a complaint of many states like Maharashtra. Why Maharashtra? Just talk about Mumbai. Look at the contribution that Mumbai is making to the national exchequer, and how much are we going in return? But you cannot force that argument too far, because as a central government, there are surplus states and there are deficit states. How is the central government going to finance the deficit states unless they take more from the surplus states? So that is part of, we are a union. We are union of central government and all the states, and in the federal structure, in the spirit of federal cooperation, which is enshrined in our constitution, this is perfectly proper. Raj Damle is asking, in your opinion, what should be the rights? No, that question has come already. Sandeep Telmore has asked, what will happen to VAT and any effect on online purchasing? VAT will, all the taxes will go. All indirect taxes would go. They would all be put together. There would be no excise, there would be no octroi, there would be no sales tax, there would be no VAT, there would be no entertainment tax. All those taxes are gone or would be gone when this becomes operational, and all of them would be put together in terms of GST, a single uniform GST. Yeah, more questions. Come on, shoot. More questions. I have not seen all the earlier questions. Let me go back and see. Samir Jadhav has joined. Madhusudan Nag says, our GST would be applicable to India? No, I have answered that question. Yeah. Most of the questions have been answered. Now, let me say a couple of things which were not asked. Please understand that this is what we are working out. There are potential benefits, right? Those benefits cannot be considered or taken for granted, because there are many downside risks also involved. It all depends. The devil is in details, as I said in Rajya Sabha. If the GST law and regulations are not formulated properly, the so-called potential benefits of higher growth and lower inflation will not be available. In fact, we can have a bad effect. Anything, no matter how policy is good, if it is not implemented properly, it can have bad effect. And, there are several bad effects possible. What is very likely to happen is that in the short run, the inflation rate is going to be higher. Short run. Say for 6 months or 1 year, there would be higher inflation rate, particularly for services. because services rate today is 14.5 to 15%. So it will go up from there. If the standard rate is 18%, on all services you'll have to pay more. The second bad thing about or adverse thing that or things that can go wrong is that depending on the tax level, what will happen is that depending on the tax level that is arrived at by GST Council and approved by the Parliament, what will happen is that since indirect taxes are by definition regressive, I gave the example earlier that when you buy petrol using Ferrari or whether you are a rickshaw driver, the petrol is going to cost you same, or tax on petrol is going to be same, which means that indirect taxes are by definition regressive. They hurt the poor the most. So if the GST rate that is agreed between GST Council and approved by the Parliament is on higher side, it will hurt the poor most, because it is by definition regressive tax. Therefore, it would be in the interest of people to have it as low as possible. But it can't be very low. It has to be low enough for people to be able to endure. At the same time, what is going to happen is that, you see, as I was mentioning earlier, there would be gainers and losers to begin with. So what will happen? Those who are going to gain because of lower taxes, say a manufacturing company, it will benefit from the lower taxes. Those lower taxes, many companies may not pass on to their consumers. They will try to absorb that as profits. On the other hand, wherever the tax rate is going to be higher than earlier, like on services, those guys are going to promptly pass on the increase to the people. This is temporary phenomena, but it is bound to happen. It's a human tendency. So those who are going to get the tax advantage, manufacturing firms who are going to get the tax advantage, may not or delay passing on the benefit to people at large or consumers at large, whereas services where the tax rate is expected to be higher than the current one, there the disadvantage would be passed on to people right away. This can be inflationary in the short run, but over a period of time, this will go away. And very important thing, it has been enshrined in the 122nd Constitutional Amendment Bill that the guiding principles for the GST, the goods and services tax, would be to go on reducing that over a period of time. This is very, very important. This is the firm guiding principle. So we may start at a level which is little uncomfortably high, but over a period of time. Now today what is happening is that some states are demanding that the GST rate should be very high. Central government is saying that it should be very low or as low as possible. The revenue neutral rate is 15%, but we are discussing the range of 18% or thereabout as the standard rate. Now, if we go by the states, some of the states what they want, if we go by that, GST rate could be 24%, very high. Now, if GST rate is 24%, just imagine on the services that you are using, for which you are paying 15%, you will be paying 24% tax. You are going to be very unhappy using all your services. At the same time, government is trying to keep the rate low, but it can't be so low that it will be reducing the government revenue. Government has to make good for the losses of the states wherever they occur, particularly about the manufacturing states. So the compromise that is expected to reach is about 18%. But 18% would not be ideal, but as a good compromise, I think 18% should be acceptable. As I have said before, no GST can be perfect from day one. We all have to learn by our own experience. So it is important. If we go on perfecting it, it will take ad infinitum before we arrive at a perfect GST rate or perfect GST law. So I think the strategy and the right strategy is to put together our heads and make a compromise kind of GST which is acceptable to as many people as possible, as many states as possible. Start with a workable solution and then over a period of time go on improving. That is where 122nd constitutional amendment gives a clear guiding principle that over a period of time the tax rate must go down. And if that is followed, I think it would be very, very useful. It is something which is giving a very, the one effect that is already taking place is this. Many international investors have been worried about India because they are saying that what is this? They have taken so long to do a reform like GST. All the advanced countries already have their GST. China has the GST. All countries have had that. We have taken 10 years, from 2006 to 2016, to arrive at that. So until recently, all the credit rating agencies were saying that what is this? You talk about reform, but you are not able to do GST. That was putting a question in the mind of international investors. As we are aware, Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been going all over trying to entice foreign direct investment to come into our country. Now, the potential investors are asking question that you put your house in order first before you expect us to put in our money in your country. Now, we have something to show. They were specifically saying that, what is this? You are not able to do even GST. What is this? I think we have made a good start now. Finally, after long debate, deliberations, we have finally have a workable kind of solution in terms of this GST, and that is sending a very good signal to our international investors. Our credit rating in the international market is going to go up, and more foreign direct investment would now come in, which will go a long way in improving the lives of millions of our country. Okay, any other question? Have I answered all the questions, or you don't understand what I'm saying? No, everybody is thanking for clarification, etc. Okay, all right. Vinod Maruti Aire is saying, good going, sir, keep it up. Yes, of course, I'm going to keep it up, and what I'm going to do, Prakash Mali has asked a question. Please clarify, sir, how it will be helpful in increasing the revenue of the government. Very simple. This is the destination-based tax. What happens is that from manufacturing stage to the consumption stage, everywhere, in that chain, there would be every supplier is going to get a credit for tax paid. So that would be, there is an inbuilt credit tax credit system. So what will happen is that it is going to be very difficult, if not impossible, for anybody to avoid paying taxes. Because in the production to consumption chain, wherever you come in, it will be traced back. Where did you start? Where did you add? How value was added successively? So if you come in at any stage, earlier, suppose that you were avoiding paying taxes, excise duties, for example, and you decide to come in at some stage. State government will detect it. If state governments fail to detect it, the central government is going to detect it. So what will happen is that our tax base will widen, our black economy will shrink, and more things would be in the tax net. And therefore, the government revenue is likely to go up considerably. Certainly it will improve, and therefore, it will take some time, but it will improve. Properly implemented, it will significantly improve the revenue collection of the government. Please understand that in India, we feel that our tax rates are very high, but our tax collection is not very high. In fact, our tax to GDP ratio has never crossed 11.5%. In most of the countries in the world, it is 15% or close to 20% or even more. While the highest that we have reached is 11.5% for the central government. And in the last few years, in fact, it has come down to between 10 and 11%. So we have a long way to go. GST is one reform which will boost our government revenues, and therefore it will not only facilitate the fiscal consolidation process for the finance minister, for our country to have the fiscal discipline, but it will also release lot of resources which could be possibly used for social sectors like education, like health, and for the welfare of scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and minorities. Somebody is saying that this is very good and I should keep it up. Yes, I intend to do that. The financial literacy that we have is very limited. What I'm going to do, that time to time, I'm going to come back to you on Facebook live chat like this. But instead of having a general all for keeping it too general. First two, this is the third one. In the first two, my friends on Facebook asked me all kinds of questions, and I tried to respond to all of them. They were not specifically oriented towards a particular subject. This one is. So from here, we are now starting a Facebook chat focused on a particular subject. I will also tell you that the next one that I want to do something like this. This is like what is called master class, where you ask all kinds of questions on a specific topic. Here, we will be concentrating on the social and economic subjects. The next one, I'm contemplating that yesterday there was a very important decision was made that we are going to move to what is called inflation targeting, and the RBI would be given now a target of 4% inflation rate plus minus 2%. And if that does not happen, what happens? And why are we doing that? This is again a historic decision that has been announced in today's papers. Maybe in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I will have a show, a Facebook live chat on explaining how does the RBI control the inflation rate and what are the constraints involved. I'm not going to talk about Raghuraman Rajan kind of issue. This is not meant for that. But I would like to explain to you how inflation is controlled and what does it mean to have the inflation targeting that has been announced. What is the meaning of why the government is now going ahead with formulation of what is called Monetary Policy Committee, MPC, that is going to happen in the next few weeks. So we will accordingly focus one show, one discussion, one Facebook chat dedicated in the next one month or 6 weeks. We'll have another one on inflation targeting. Time to time, depending on how things happen, I certainly would like to, as I find time, I will certainly like to get in touch with all of you with a special show or a general show on Facebook chat. I want to thank all of you for asking very good questions. I really enjoyed talking to all of you. Keep your interest alive. You must know economics is one subject which, irrespective of what is your field, you may be engineer, you may be lawyer, you may be doctor, you must know 2 subjects minimum. One is economics and the second is law. For a conscientious citizen of this country, these are the 2 subjects about which you must know a little bit, at least a little bit. You cannot say that this is not my field. Economics is a subject which has covered your life and it has transgressed into your life, and you better know that, otherwise you will face a situation which will not be something that you would like to happen. Thank you very much. Finish time.